Welcome to the Afro Anime Initiative podcast, a place where we like to discuss diversity in our animation, cartoons, and just general entertainment. I'm the host, Darren Bradley, along with,
Claire.
and welcome to our great cultural appropriations episode. Now, just kidding. We are want to address a lot of things that have been going on lately with the term of cultural appropriation, where we have a lot of people confused about what cultural appropriation means. It's not about attacking a black woman standing up for her truth. It's about defending the culture you create. But instead of us dwelling on that, we're going to pay homage to those who love sharing cultures, who embrace different cultures, who take those different cultures, add them with a twist of their culture, and create beautiful art. With our focus on hip hop, music, jazz, and we might throw in some funk in there a little bit, and definitely with animation, because again, Afro Anime Initiative. So, Paulina, where can the people find us?
They can first find us on YouTube, Afro underscore AI, or Afro Anime Initiative, but it's easier for the shortened version. On Twitter, same thing, Afro underscore AI. And on Instagram, it's Afro Anime Initiative, one whole word. And on Facebook, both. So that's
All right, and with that, let's get started. What is our first piece of art we're talking
our
about
first
today,
one
P?
is the ever classic Cowboy Bebop, that came out in 1998. Now, all of you listening in, you just know this either by name or you've grown up on it. You just know that it's the definition for me of cool. Reason: the music, the characters, and how the characters reflect that music. You have blues, jazz, some a little rock and roll, and some R&B, influences of which our people have created and brought up and shared with the entire world. So, people, the definition of cool. So it just all goes through, just everything about the music, everything that so particular and meticulous with bringing these characters to life. And the music itself was composed by Yoko Kano, and she formed the blues and jazz band Seatbelts to perform the music of the series, specifically the opening theme, Tank, and the ending theme, the Real Folk Blues, which was led by the vocals of Mai Yamane. So it's a lot of these classic, recognizable music was all because of her and this band. And what's really cool about it was that, the music itself, again, was one of the first things to be composed and put together in the series to begin production, and even before most of the characters in the story or the animation itself has been finalized. So again, the genre she used was just like Western. You also hear some opera too in certain episodes, if you can remember. There's like one
Mm-hmm.
episode when
Mm-hmm.
Faye visited the opera to try to get her foot in with this syndicate, with the syndicate leader. So,
Mm-hmm.
you have opera. Again, you have jazz, you have certain styles of blues as well. How certain instruments were specified, were spotlighted, again, like the harmonica, played by like one character specifically that just didn't age but was killer on the harmonica though. You had a saxophonist who was a soldier from a war that, was a huge problem in the world of Cowboy Bebop. And so the director Watanabe, he noted that Kano didn't score the music exactly the way he told her to. Um, and I quote, "She gets inspired on her own and she follows up on her own imagery and comes to me saying, 'This is the song we need for Cowboy Bebop.' And then she composes something completely on her own." And sometimes, she herself would be surprised with how, the specific music she composed would be used for certain other scenes that she wouldn't expect for the music to be used, but it worked. For her, it would be like, well, it still worked out. None of it was inappropriate. It still fits. So, it's all on the environment she worked in. She pretty much had a very chill team, which again contributes greatly to the creation of the show. You gotta have a chill team to have a really chill show. You know,
Exactly, exactly. Because a lot of, like you said, the musical influence came before the animation, and it is picked up so well in the show. Characters, the way they act, are influenced by the genre that they like so much. The way they interact is based on the music when the tempos change, when a certain instrument comes in to either see danger or joy in their actions, or when a new character is introduced and how that character adds to the chorus, how it adds to the sound, and they add, and it gives it, and you can tell that the music inspires that flow because it all gels in so blendedly, like blues and jazz do. When you get a quartet of people together and they like playing their own thing, but it comes together in such a wild and crazy environment, but there's always a structure behind it, and that structure connects the music to make such a beautiful composition. Same thing with the with Cowboy Bebop. The music combined with the changing of the art style, the introduction of new elements or new sounds, new voices, creates a beautiful art piece. Because even in the show, each episode is called a session,
Yep.
like a jam session. So every new episode, you get a new flavor, you get a new sound, you get a new chance to make something different, to make a new collaboration, and it comes out in the show and in the
Even with the
music.
filler episodes, you feel like they're not filler, that they contribute so much to the story itself because the music, the way how things are folded together. Like when we're introduced to the character of Ed, we already know off the bat she's weird. So she has her own really weird theme music and it fits. And it fits with so much of everything else how Spike is more, he's a bit of a hothead, if not very much of a hothead, but still manages to flow, go with the flow, be very smooth, be very slick with whatever he does, gets himself into a lot of trouble, but also is quick to get himself out of it. You know, you have Jet, who's very gruff, but still holds like a sort of sadness in his heart from his past. You have Faye, who's a very sassy woman. Like there's literally like the episode she was introduced in is literally called Honky Tonk Woman. Like she has a mouth on her, she has an
Mm-hmm.
attitude, but she's also a big softie. You know, so
Mm-hmm. She's named after one of the greatest romantic songs in the world, "My Funny Valentine." Her full
yes.
name is Faye Valentine. So you see her melancholy, her the truth of her, and but you get early access to that if you know understand the song, if you understand where that song comes from, and again, of course, you eventually figure it out as the story progresses. But at first,
Mhm.
it's just in the name. In the name alone, you start to get her character, which is tied so
Exactly.
heavily into the music.
You also have like just the underlining scores of each character, you know, who they are and who they aren't. And it just really impresses me how everything fits. You know, nothing's out of beat, there's no wrong note. Even if it's done purposefully, it still works. You know, it still draws attention to the conflict between the characters, the the quiet sorrow of Faye and Ed leaving the Bebop with Ein. And it's just, or, you know, like I remember specifically that episode where Spike and Jet refused to acknowledge the fact that Ed was gone. She left. But the music itself spoke their emotions out loud, which was another great thing because they weren't
Mm-hmm.
very expressive when they needed to, but the music worked so well with how they needed to express themselves. Like the viewers listening in and watching everything unfold, they get the idea that there is sadness, that there is like, well, dang, we're gonna miss this kid. Things are quiet now.
Because it's again it's like a jazz quartet when one of your main players who, even though they didn't start off with the group, but once they came into the group they added something special. If they leave, you just know it's different now, and they express that quite very well with the music. And like I said, the music feeds the animation feeds the music, and it's a very beautiful, poignant moment. And that's what Cowboy Bebop is. And to me, it sounds like it's a moment of music encapsulated with some animation and really cool background sci-fi
And it's
fantasy story right behind
the
it.
biggest part of the biggest reasons why Cowboy Bebop is considered one of the true classics of anime. Regardless of when it came out, but you
Yeah.
see a lot of shows that came out after it deeply influenced by it because there's just nothing else like it.
Yes.
And that's why I
Yes.
love it so much. Like I'm rewatching it right now. I will never stop
Indeed.
rewatching it.
Yeah, definitely one of my
All
favorites.
right.
Hmm.
Yep.
Definitely one of my favorites too.
All right. The
What's up
next one
next?
we've got is going along the same lines is Afro Samurai. Oh yeah.
Oh, oh yeah, oh yeah. See, oh man. See, the thing about Afro Samurai himself, the Afro Samurai himself, is a quiet man, a man of few words. His companion or subconscious talks his ass off, the best hype man in a nation. But he's a man of few words, and you get across his emotional standpoint, his place in the world through the beautiful music of Afro Samurai. P telling people
Well, first of all, like even in the first episode, the first fight scene you see, the music itself was funk. It's a lot of funk music, and it was like
mm-hmm.
for me, it reminded me of those black exploitation movies. Forgive me in the pronunciations. I cannot say it to save my life, but it just black exploitation. There we go.
Black exploitation.
And
Yeah, say it fast.
oh, you know me, I'm so particular with pronunciation. It's ridiculous, but it's
Mm-hmm.
it immediately reminded me of that because thinking about it in black culture, a lot of people really do pay attention and really love like those samurai or ninja movies. So, especially back in like the 60s and 70s with those type of films with like Shaft or Black Dynamite, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So there's already that influence in there. One, two, you got the voice of Samuel L. Jackson in this movie. Like you hear more of Ninja than you do of Afro himself, but you still hear the classic,
Mm-hmm.
hyped voice of Samuel L. Jackson. Like you still hear the classic of,
Mm-hmm.
kind of reminds you of, oh, what was that one movie he was in with John Travolta? Pulp Fiction. There,
Pulp Fiction.
yes. For me, like that character just reminded me of him because of his demeanor, the way he carried himself, the way he just, both characters presenting themselves in this story. Now, like I said, in the first fight scene, you hear funk. A little bit later on, you hear more so like hip hop here and there. But then, you have the lovemaking scene between Afro and Okiku or Otsuru, and that was like R&B music, purposefully cliche, just like a majority of like the romantic R&B
Mm-hmm.
movies of the 90s. So that again just
Mm-hmm.
reminded me strongly of like one movie, was it Love and Basketball? Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So Afro
Definitely.
Samurai itself is not a show that sticks specifically to a certain time era. Yes, it takes place in Japan, I assume, but it's so it's such a fusion of black music itself. You have R&B, you have funk, you have hip hop, you even the characters themselves, the main characters at least. Afro's like a black samurai with an afro.
Yeah.
Like
It's it's a black samurai with an afro. You have ancient Chinese monks with
preaching
headphones
like
listening to
gospel,
bebop
preaching
and hip
gospel.
hop symbols on them,
Yes.
like black gospel. Yep. Mm-hmm. You have excuse me. You have towns inspired with Western culture, but and I mean Western culture. I'm talking about old West cowboys and Indian culture. And then you turn around, they got a giant dance floor with DJ equipment on there spinning tunes. Like it's a fusion of all these things, and the music just adds the extra environment to it, where it makes everything seem like it's perfectly in place. Like this is a world that we could evolve into because it takes those things that are popular now that infuse the world. Because hip hop is everywhere except for in China, but that's a political conversation. Hip hop is everywhere, and it shows how hip hop would interact and interject with all these different forms of cultures and how it would influence speech patterns, how it would influence decor, how it would influence dress. And it all is shown so beautifully well in
And it just
Afro
for
Samurai.
me what kind of threw me off like was the that brother, brother 4, brother 2, brother 3, like the
Brother
way
four,
he
brother two.
talked, like it just church. It was freaking
Mhm.
church, and it was so weird to see like those old
Mhm.
bald men, like non-black bald men, preaching gospel like a black Baptist
You
minister.
need to go to Japan. It's a lot of bald. Yeah, a lot of
I
bald Asian monks in Japan. You should go. Fun
and
time.
it's such an anomaly for me because you see one image and you would expect for them to behave as the image presents itself, but then they open their mouths and you're transported to a Baptist church, and it's like, whoa, and it
Mhm.
works, and it's fun, and it's fun to follow
And it
too.
works
Cause
very well.
for me, I can't help but laugh. Like for the voice actor was Phil Lamar, who did yes, and who was also the voice of teenage
Yes.
Afro Samurai.
Right. We've talked about Phil Lamar in
Yes,
previous
he is,
episodes.
and I'm pretty
Man
sure
is
he'll be
prolific.
brought up in many episodes to come. I can guarantee you that. And and the
Indeed.
soundtrack itself was produced by Wu Tang Clan member. Was it Arzit RZA? That's it. I
RZA.
said Wu Tang Clan, so I don't know. Put me. Yeah, I know.
Terrible. Terrible. Get her. Talk about it in the
Yeah,
comments, people.
sorry,
We accept it.
it's my fault. Anywho, but yeah, he was the one to produce the soundtrack for both the series and the movie sequel. And it was like you can hear just you just know you just see it. It's just pure hip hop influence because of who produced it.
Yeah.
And it featured a lot of big names like Big Daddy Kane, Talib Kweli, Q-Tip, Khalib.
Talib Kweli.
Mm-hmm.
Kweli.
So you have a lot of these styles that you recognize, and you give these names. It's like, oh, that's the person who did it, and it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. So it's a fun show to watch. It's really fun, very gruesome. Look, if you guys got the stomach for it, watch it. If not, glance at it, but acknowledge that it's a fun series to watch and to. Mhm.
And it's very aesthetically pleasing because when you get to some of those rougher scenes, some of the more violent scenes, they
Yes.
segment it off kind of like a music video. Like you have a scene where you have Afro maybe just walking around the town, interacting with people. It's nice, cool, and metal. But when the sword come out, it cuts and the music changes and the perspective flips, and you got a music video of violence,
Mhm.
and it works out so well, and it lets you know that the heightenedness of the situation and the music encapsulate all. Like you said, it's such a eclectic collection of MCs and great, fantastic hip hop beats. Like RZA picks out some real great melodies and background music that captures Afro Samurai in a nutshell. Because there are some philosophies in Afro Samurai. There are definitely some existential questions. But at the end of the day, man, it's just a good show of ass kickers, and you just want to watch it. And that's what it comes across as.
And I really quick note before we move on to the next anime. Like I just love how you mentioned Ninja as his hype man.
Greatest hype man in animation history.
I loved him so much. Like all the crap he said, but the fact that he's
Mm-hmm.
just hype man, which is another common thing. I don't know about now, but it was another common thing in hip hop, especially in the 90s. Like you have the group, you have the rappers, and then you have just the hype men just jumping up and hyping everybody up for the performance.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Getting everybody
Getting the
to
crowd
notice
involved.
that hey, this amazing thing is about to happen. Y'all better pay attention. Right, y'all better be here for it.
Join in.
And he was like that the whole time, even though Afro kept telling him to shut up.
Shut up.
That's all he said. Hey, shut up, the whole time. But
Mm-hmm.
that's another thing I really appreciated that it's just the details, man. That always impresses me the most. So our
Mm-hmm.
next awesome anime on our list is the ever classic, same same director of Cowboy Bebop is Samurai Champloo. Came out in 2004, and just everything about it, even though it took place back in feudal Japan, it was It was just straight up modern day stuff.
That's the thing that made Samurai Champloo, some people say, a little step above Cowboy Bebop. They took the hip hop influence, just one genre really, and infused it completely into the Japanese culture because it is a fantasized version of the Edo period in Japan. It throws in a lot of things that didn't happen, throws in some things that you know didn't happen, but it still gives you a hip hop aesthetic and even a hip hop culture, such as people moving away from battling each other with swords and battling each other with graffiti. When people would tell stories to travelers, it'd be maybe an old man, relaying a story to the kids. No, in this show, you have three dudes spitting that hip hop flame, rapping about what's going on in the town. Like it opens up, and you already know we have a different type of show, even though it's from, like you said, the same director, the same production company, Cowboy Bebop. It opens up with the show, and with old Japanese calligraphy, but it starts off in modern day with a dude walking around with a
Mhm.
baseball cap, his headphones on, bobbing up and down, beating, and it has to do a record scratch and a DJ rewind. It takes it back to feudal Japan, the Edo period, and it still has the hip hop beat playing. And you
Oh,
definitely know we
it
have a
just
different
grabs
story to
you. It
tell.
just captures you. Like that's how it was for me when it first came out. Being an impressionable teenager, when I first saw that when it dropped on Adult Swim, that caught my attention. That's how I knew. Like, from the trailers, it's like, oh, well, okay, sure, maybe I'll give this a shot. Soon as this first episode hit, just the first 5 minutes, I was sold. I was completely and immediately sold because I'm like, this is very cool. No other show I've ever never seen no other show do something like this with a cool opening comparable to Cowboy Bebop. Now, again, it's
Mm-hmm.
the same person, and I'm
Yeah.
really impressed with how he is so meticulous with the music and the characteristics of the show, especially with the characters. Again, now you have one particular character who brings elements of black culture, particularly how he fights. His name is Mugen, and it's literally capoeira breakdancing. Like the way he fights with his sword,
Capoeira, for those
yes,
who don't know, is
which was
Brazilian martial.
created by the slaves as a form of like code self-defense
Mm-hmm.
without letting their masters know. They think that they're just dancing, but really they're teaching themselves self-defense and how to fight. There you go.
Yes.
Um,
Yes.
with this character, the way he moves, like he's just a vagabond with a sword. Like he's not even considered a samurai at all. He's a vagabond with a sword, and the way he fights even throws his opponents off. Using any means, any part of his body to just knock out his opponents without really using his sword when he needs to or when he wants to. And I just find that again super fascinating in a way to really draw in the viewers because again, free exactly, it's freestyle.
It's freestyle.
Mhm. And
It's
you just
freestyle
don't know what
fighting.
he's gonna do. It's predictable. It's not predictable. Sorry, it's unpredictable. And then you have like the classic samurai Jin. Well, true, yeah,
Well, disgraced samurai. He is a
all of
Ronin.
that.
He
Yes,
doesn't have a
but
mask.
still kind of is very like reserved. You know, believes himself to be an
Mm-hmm.
intellectual, but he's not that smart. He really isn't. And then you have Fu, which I have no idea how to categorize her, but she's
Oh, food is the head MC of the group. She's the microphone controller. She's the one that gets everybody direction. She's the one that gets everybody together. Cause Jen is just
Mhm.
he the cool dude in the back that don't want to say nothing.
Yep.
He the b boy that just likes to look good. But food like nah, we finna get stuff done. We got things to do. And again, it is taking that formula, those pillars of hip hop and what has been formed in the 80s and the beginning of the music and the culture and turning those into and infusing them with these traditional things that have been around for hundreds of years. And again, Samurai Shampoo really does that. Like there are entire episodes where they talk about how the world is changing. Like when hip hop first came up in on the scenes, there's an episode where the old samurai code is dying away. Two sons of an old samurai master are feuding it out, but they're not feuding it out with swords. They're not trying to kill each other. They battling with graffiti. They out there
Yes.
writing on the walls, using calligraphy. They out there putting their names on the highest buildings and the weirdest spots in the town and on dogs and sometimes. And it shows that free spirit that form in hip hop that some people and they even talk about it. Some people in the town just call it trash. Some people in the town straight up just call it vandalism. But there are
All
other
the
people
time.
like, oh, that's kind of cool. Oh, that's cool. And other people like other people like you could do better. Just like it was when graffiti first started. One of the main pillars of hip hop. If you don't understand, it's five pillars of hip hop. You know, it's the DJ, the b boy, the hip hop, the graph, and then the fifth is love. But that's always been the pillar of hip hop, and Samurai
Yes,
Champloo
exactly.
embraces
And it just goes
all of
in and
it.
out. Like the overall theme, like how you can have a show where it just has an overall theme, but the characters themselves don't have to acknowledge the style. But in this show, it does. Like it brings in, you have groups
Mm.
in this show that beatbox and rap and
Yes,
exactly.
and it's just natural for them. Nobody
Right,
blinks an
right.
eye
Like
at
the
it. It's
same
just like, okay,
reactions as you
cool.
described when graffiti first came out. With beatboxing, people just either look at them like, what a bunch of losers, and others are like, whoa, this is cool. It's all the same thing. And again, this is
Hmm.
well done, very well done writing. And the big one of the names of that's a part of the music and the style of Cowboy Bebop is Nujabes. Is like a hip hop DJ that I'm pretty sure that a lot of you who listening in are familiar with, and I know a lot of people that I've known without the show talk about them all the time. You also have elements of R&B. Singer Minmi, if I'm pronouncing it correctly, she's an R&B singer and she does the ending title.
The greatest in credit song in anime history. Fight me. See me in the comments if you want to talk about it. Because that song is so captivating with a hip hop beat, with a beautiful R&B singer on it. I don't know. What does that remind you of?
90s.
Every
Oh
other
yeah.
R&B singer that
Yep.
came out during the 90s since Mary J. Blige. Like, and they capture that and it still has like
Yes.
a beautiful,
Yes.
poetic Japanese style to it. It doesn't change from
Mhm.
the culture. It just embraces it and fuses it together.
Mhm.
It's one of the most recognizable songs. People hear that, they know exactly what they're coming from. And even that dun 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 comes from an old R&B song from like the 60s. They bring it all together and infuse it into like I said, a cultural love. They share love. It's not a thing about taking something or abusing something. It's like, no, I like what you did. This is what I have. Let's see what we can do to bring it together and make something incredible. And Samurai Champloo, like Cowboy Bebop, is also
Mhm.
considered one
And
of the
just to
classic
let you guys
anime
know,
series.
so the song itself is called Shiki no Yuta, and it features Minmi, but it's by the Nujabes. It's by Nujabes. So look it up, Shiki no Yuta, or I'll put it in the description for you guys. Put the names of some songs that you would like to look up and listen for yourself. Add to your library if it's available, and just have fun with it. So yeah, like Darren said, it's all there, and it's all put together in a way that we can all understand it with a classic Japanese spin to it, and it works very well. So, this brings me to our fourth show. Now, there isn't much to it, but I've noticed something really interesting about the show, Devilman Crybaby. Now, it may seem like a weird, like, why this show in particular, especially to those who have seen it. Came out last year, basically, I think last summer. And Netflix under original
Hmm.
series, yes.
Netflix original series, right?
Very, very dark show. But to mention that what I appreciate about it is that you have a literal gang again who rap, and the way they do it is they literally like they talk as how hip hop was conceived. They literally talk about using hip hop, using rap to cope with whatever crap is going on in their town. And you have like like them literally saying in the beginning of, I think it was like episode 2, you have a montage of like just the disparity of their town with these guys just rapping about the crap in their hometown and how they gather with each other every day to cope with it, to just be there for each other You also have another character who uses rap to impress a girl, which was for me the sweetest thing because he was basically talking about how he wants her to notice him, but he
Mm.
does so in a way that he describes her beauty and her style and like the way, like it's literally like how long is it? It's like a minute and a half. Like he just keeps going until the girl he's saying this rap to until she literally
Nice.
has tears in her eyes. Because the reason why she's so impressed with it is because she's a character who has the same first name as a starring character. Like they're both in track, and one of them is faster than the other. And so she's given a nickname instead of people addressing her by her actual name, and she doesn't like that at all. So when have this guy approaching her,
Hmm.
telling her how he feels about her, it's I mean it's very sweet because I've seen this before too. I've seen guys like rap about who they like, and it's very endearing. So again, they use hip hop and they use elements of that to at least still show whoever's watching that this is how hip hop is. I mean, yes, it's in Japan, it's rap by these young Japanese men who are just using it as a means to cope. It's still a particular style that works anywhere you go, and it still sticks to its roots. That's what's most impressive. That's what I really like about it. And I mean, like I said, there's not much to it
Hmm.
because the show primarily uses music of like synth and like neo synth and stuff like that, like kind of club music, but not like as clubby, if that makes sense. But it's just something that really impressed me and I
Okay.
really liked about this show. So, mm,
Nice. Very nice. I didn't get a chance to watch it, but it sounds like there's some really cool stuff in there. Some elements again paying
mhm,
homage to what just the youth culture is, and it's not disrespectful things like, nah, this is what in a time of crisis, this is what kids would probably turn to express themselves as hip hop. And we all know since the beginning of words, men have tried to use
exactly.
poetry to win over women. Hip hop is just the newest
Exactly.
form of poetry.
And
It's
even
just what
when
it
you have
is.
it down to how they dress themselves, like, those hip hop artists with the baggy white shirts and the chains and the backwards cap and the baggy clothes and all that stuff. Like they
Mm.
even have that down to a T in terms of how each character in that group presents themselves. So,
A show of camaraderie, a show of solidarity with the people that thinking like them. So he dressed alike, you know. Something I never understood why people talk mess about. Like we do that all. Put on a suit and tie to dress like your coworkers. You're doing the same thing as a kid wearing a backwards
exactly.
baseball cap.
Get
You
them
just
to
want to look like
just
the people you
get
want
them
to be a
to
part of.
make you a part of their group. There you go. So,
Hmm.
yep. So if
All
you
right,
got the
Devilman
stomach for
Crybaby.
it,
You
I
might have to
say
check
check
that
it out.
out.
If you have the psyche for it and it won't mess you up there, go ahead and do it because that show is dark. Oh man, it.
Nice,
Woo. All right. So the next
nice.
show that I or we need to bring up is, yeah, I think so. Yeah, is
It's our
the
last show for the day, right?
also awesome Boondocks.
Okay.
The Boondocks came out in 2005
Doom,
when it
doom,
came
doom,
out,
doom, doom, doom,
and
doom.
everything about it just again with anybody familiar with the comics, it's about a black family, two kids living with their granddad, and it's just basically them navigating the suburban life, interacting with white people, who think that they understand black culture, which they do not at all, which makes up for some hilarious hijinks, to put it lightly. But music of the Boondocks, it's at like their what mixtape. It's literally it's a mixtape. It's like hip hop doctrine that yeah,
It's one of the
the
greatest hip
official
hop
Boondocks
mixtapes of all
mixtape.
time.
It's released by Esho and DJ Dub Floyd, 2016 for the show itself, and it features a lot of like popular and underground hip hop artists, and like a lot of them is like Common, Most Def, Less Poets, Sway. You have also I think you have. The Roots, Gnarls Barkley, like people, you know who was a part of this. You knew who was a part of this. Method Man and Lauren Hill as well,
Yes.
definitely. So it's an
Mm-hmm.
all it's a black show, but what I love most about it is it's also anime in nature because one, the style, the animation style is anime. Period. Like the big eyes, especially with the kids, the the reactions, the movement of each character, anime. Anime cliches, anime influences. For
Yes.
Huey Freeman, way of the samurai. That's how he disciplines himself. Japanese culture. That's how he remains focused and so like
Yes.
quote unquote woke. Like just actually woke though. Like he's aware of all the
Right.
just the crap that black people go through every day, but also the crap that black people contribute to as well. Like
Because if you notice the trend that we had with our first four shows, it
going
was
north.
east
Yes.
going west. This one, no, it's west coming east. You see how Huey's love for discipline through the martial arts, how his speech pattern is embraced with Bushidoism, where it's always you stay calm until they just push you too far. But until they get you there, you stay calm. You don't let them influence your river. You keep flowing. Like you see Taoism, you see a lot of Asian and definitely Japanese influence in his culture and his
Mhm.
speech. But it's still, like you said, it's a black show. It's hip hop. It's a main cast of black characters, of voice actors. It's talking about the black experience. All those things are in there, and it doesn't take away when you add in the Japanese culture.
Oh
If
yeah.
you even watch the show, you'll see in some of the fight scenes, like you said, it has anime tropes where it's a nice normal show about just a
Yep.
bunch of people interacting, and suddenly everybody kicking out martial arts and moves. But even those scenes
Mhm.
are directly taken from
Yep.
some really popular and cool anime. They just put black people in them, and it's not disrespectful. It's again
Exactly.
not cultural appropriation. It's called
Yep.
paying homage. People need to learn the difference. Um, and the Boondocks is a great example of that because it's a
Mhm.
show that when you like you said when you talk about it, it's the black experience. But it doesn't mean the black experience is myopic and it's only about this one thing. It composes a lot of different cultures and the influence that black people have on them and what they have on us
It's
as
just
well.
I mean in general for me the show is it's a fun watch because when I see like the fight scenes, I'm always impressed by the fight scenes. I'm also impressed by like again the anime cliches where you would have like certain characters. I think it's with Uncle Ruckus. They would have him dress up like a Japanese chef when he's about to. Yes, yes,
Mm-hmm.
yes, exactly. Like
His
where
500
when they go
different
there, you
jobs.
see Uncle Ruckus with some other job
Mm-hmm.
or another.
Like yeah,
Mhm.
that's an anime thing where a character turns in one corner, they wearing some one thing, the next corner they wearing something else. That's an anime trope, a cliche. Try to save money on them
Exactly.
frames.
That's a classic thing about Uncle Ruckus though. Even though I have like a lot of personal problems, that's another episode for another day though.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so it's been a while since I've actually enjoyed the first couple of seasons. But it again, it's one of those shows that used music to really draw the audience in. You know, people were excited when the promos of
Yes.
the Boondocks was shown. I think it was of Huey. Yes, it
Riley and
was.
Granddad. Those were the first ones.
And it was like I'm trying to figure out like what was that one quote that he was saying at that dinner party to try to scare white people. Yes. Oh, okay. No, actually,
There's
no.
so
I got
many
it.
moments in trying to scare white people. I can't
Before
remember
white
all.
people. He says, "Excuse me, everyone. I have a brief announcement to make. Jesus was black. Ronald Reagan was the devil, and the government is lying about 9/11. Thank you for your time and good night." Right. And then white people like
Okay.
riot
Thank you
because,
for
oh
your
my
time.
God, how dare
Yeah.
he? Like, Or like, how dare
How
you
dare you
speak
speak
this
the
truth
truth?
that has been denied to us, self-denying and all that stuff. You know how that goes. But it was a dream. Because then
Hmm.
later on, I remember later on in that episode, towards the end, Huey actually does it
Hmm.
in real life, but everybody just stands there and go, "Oh, look at this cute black boy." You- Yep.
They don't
They're like,
care.
"Oh,
Like,
how
oh, this cute
adorable.
little black boy.
He's
Yep.
so well spoken, so composed." I'm like, "Wow." Mhm.
Mhm. And they go about their business. But again, except for Devilman Crybaby, because I didn't get a chance to watch. In the previous shows that we've talked about, again, it's theme music. The theme music sets the tone, and Boondocks has one of the best theme music, and it opens up with a straight rap. Like it doesn't slow. You don't get a little primer. You don't get a little introduction. No, it goes, "I am the stone that the building refused," and that's the end of that.
Exactly.
As
Judo
soon as he
flips,
says those
with the
words,
opening.
we
Yep.
off and
Chop,
running.
chop, chop. Exactly. And that got people
Yep,
excited,
chop,
especially the
chop,
black
chop.
kids who were
Yeah.
watching it. When that stuff came out, I was like, "What? When did Boondocks come out?
Yeah.
2005. I was 15." So that right there was a huge, huge influence to how I
Hmm.
interacted with my peers
Yeah.
afterwards. And I remember reading the comics from the newspaper whenever it came up, and I remember actually understanding what they were talking about, and it cracked me up. And it, like, so when I heard news that it was going to be a
Hmm.
show on Adult Swim, I was excited. First episode drops, the opening theme, that drew you in. You know what kind of show it was going to be, but didn't really expect the kind of humor that it would bring up too.
Hmm. Especially if you didn't read the comic strip like long form, because again, it was a comic strip, so you had to go come back every Sunday. But it didn't have those nuggets of humor in it constantly like it did in the show, and in the show expressed that well, which is also expressed well through hip hop. Hip hop, even though it's a party music,
Yep.
or it started off more as a party music, it always had a message. It was always like, yeah, okay, we want to party, but hey, guess what? We also sick of dying. It's in there, and it's a well balanced thing. And the Boondocks embraces that hip hop culture where yes, we can have fun, yes, we can crack jokes, but yo, we have something to say, and that's always been a part of the foundation of hip hop. Yeah, we here to do this other stuff, but we also have something to say. That's why we want you to listen. We just not here for the just for the music. We also here for the words, and Boondocks embodies that as well. Like you said, you have great music produced by some of the best hip hop artists at
Yep.
the time, both mainstream and underground. But you also have some of the best writing, some of the best writing to go alongside that storytelling wise, especially for the first three seasons. And that is again a great element of hip hop lyrical skill, the ability to convey your message
Exactly.
over no matter what
And the
was
really
going on in
interesting
the
thing about the
background, and the
show is that it
Boondocks
also
captures
shows
that.
like different kinds of black people, if that makes sense. Like, you have Huey, who is not, who's unlike his brother, Riley. Riley is like 100% all about the gangster rap and still incorporates a bit of of martial arts into his fighting style, which I find really interesting. But they are brothers. He's more of a boxer. No, that's true. That is true.
He's a
But he does
boxer. He's more
incorporate
of
a
a
little bit
Riley's
of
more of a
martial
pure
arts in
boxer.
his
Yeah,
form. He he does. You're right
yeah.
about that. He
He
tries, but
tries.
he
That's
doesn't
when he
go
gets his
too
butt
far.
kicked.
But he does. But
Which again, boxing, a black sport. Don't let them tell you boxing started when they put Negro slaves. Still a black sport. So he again a lot of those subtleties in the Boondocks. If you
yep.
pay attention to history.
Mhm.
So he was the boxer, but he was the gangster, the wannabe gangster of the fam.
Yes.
Huey, like you said, Huey is the woke, the Black Panther, the radical, but he knows his
Mhm.
martial arts skill because he's disciplined. He's self defense. Because that's a lot of stuff that from that time period, that era of the 60s and 70s, is about black people doing self defense. And again, in America we didn't have our own style like capoeira in Brazil, but we had we got stuff from Asian movies, so we embraced those things. We embraced that self defense. You had
Yep.
Grandpa,
My
the
God.
old World War II vet, the old Negro stuck in some of the older ways and the way things should be. But he had the ability to fight too, because
Yep.
again, he survived a
He was
whole bunch of stuff:
he was
World War
everywhere. He
II,
was
civil
everything.
rights,
He knew
everything. Grandpa went through it all.
everything. He was always with that man.
And it was always funny how Grandpa's weapon of choice was the belt, but it always sounded like
Oh
a
my god,
whip.
yes.
Again, it's some stuff in this show that you want to talk about it. We can talk about it. But those things never took away from them. It's just a part of them, all the
That's the
influence that they
beauty of
had
Boondocks.
over
It's such
time.
a lot of these shows, man, are just fun to follow, to be a part of because it draws you in from the beginning. From the beginning. Mhm.
Mhm. And they're all commentaries on culture. They're all commentaries on culture. Like
Crybaby,
even you
yes.
said about Devil, what was it again? Devil Man Crybaby. Right. It's uh you talk about. I heard you when you talking about the music of it, them using hip hop to express
Exactly.
themselves, but it's hip hop to express themselves because all the BS going on around them. Again, it's culture. It's an expression of culture, and it's the embrace of knowing the different ways to
Exactly.
express yourself without being disrespectful to someone else. Or in some cases, maybe being a little disrespectful to be like, hey, this is ours.
That
We
too.
made this.
This too.
Stop stealing it.
Okay, so we do have an honorable mention, but like one anime. Um, Main reason why is because we didn't. I haven't seen the show in a while. I don't. Darren, I don't think you saw it at all. Is Michiko and Hachin. Now, this show takes
Hmm.
place in Brazil. That's why I love the show so much. And I saw this a while ago. This came out on Adult Swim in 2008, if I'm not mistaken. So I didn't fully follow it, but again, there was a lot of influences, or just because it took place in Brazil, it's straight up like samba music. You know, you have Brazilian culture, Rio itself, characteristics of each character, how they behave. Like the character Michiko, she is an outlaw. She's on the run, and there's a police officer who's like on her case. This tall black woman with a big blonde afro, like gorgeous woman. Like you see that it's just primarily black with a few white characters because it's Brazil. Everybody's of different colors, but it's primarily black. So it's something to look into. Something to watch and to really see the same type of influences of black music as some of these other shows too. Because again, with like the origins of fighting style, capoeira, Brazil, you know, and you do actually see a bit of
Hmm.
that in the show itself. But again, I have to rewatch it to really refresh my mind. But again, it's of the same style. If you think about it, it's of the same style as Cowboy Bebop. Let's put it that way, but not with the same like jazz and blues. Even though samba
Okay.
is, I believe, jazz. It's a subgenre of jazz. Yeah, because my dad listens to a lot of that. So
Okay.
yeah, just give it a shot, guys. Let us know what you think. Just yeah, holler at us if you feel that you can connect the same ideas with this show as the others that we've spoken about, and any others that has a lot of black music, jazz, blues, hip hop in a lot of these shows. I think that's it.
Well, there you go, and there you have it. So once again, thank you guys for listening. And as soon as you get a chance, check us out on all our social media, and don't
Bye.
forget